To me, what was real about Rita that I wanted to honor is what is real in all women is that we do have a desire to connect with each other.
Mm.
And there's this notion I feel like it's a psychosocial, cultural, you know, political thing that for hundreds of years it's been instilled in us that we are stronger by being divided and being individualistic, when in reality, we are stronger by banding together. And what Rita taught me is that you become more and more who you are by emanating the women around you that you look up most to.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Coley, and I'm so incredibly honored to moderate this conversation with the Best Supporting Actresses at this year's SAG Awards. Joining us today, we have Monica Barbaro, Zoe Saldaña, and Ariana Grande Butera. Hello, ladies. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
I'm going to start with this question because you're all incredible actors, but what I really love is that all of your projects are also ensembles that are nominated for Best Cast, and all of you have this incredible, I think, familial type relationship with your other castmates. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about one day on set when you're crafting your performance that you were like, oh my God, thank God I'm here with the group and we can do this together. Because I think you all probably had moments like that in this production. And Monica, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, well, an interesting thing kind of about our film is like we actually were pretty siloed in our processes and like in the preparation and even in some way in the filming there was a lot of like in our own world happening. But it was also one of those things where like we could just see each other and the level of work that everyone was bringing to their independent characters. And it kind of felt representative of the people that we were portraying, that they'd sort of like, they had their own musical lives and then they'd come together and collide and then go their separate ways. And I just remember we would do these massive music sequences at like Monterey Festival and Newport Folk Festival, where James Mangold would film it almost like a little one act. And so there's like one where I perform and then I think Pete or someone comes up and introduces Boyd Holbrook, and then you get, yeah, it's I perform, sorry, and then Ed Norton comes up as Pete Seeger and introduces Johnny Cash, played by Boyd Holbrook, and then he introduces Bob Dylan, Timothy Chalamet, and like it was this like cycle of just like amazing performances, and it felt really exciting to just be surrounded by each individual doing their utmost and getting to kind of like literally stand on the sidelines as if I had just performed, going off to the wings and watching the next performance and getting excited about their, like, internally as an actor, getting excited about the other actor doing a great job, but also just portraying a musician who's then in real time responding to another musician's performance. Like everything just kind of worked in a really
It was almost like your own little Coachella. Yeah.
authentic way. Yeah, it really felt like we were truly performing at a music festival, which was such a gift from Jim to have allowed for that, for those long takes. And also just it was just an interesting kind of like we were just supported by each other's work. We've become friends, I think, in the post process, which
Mm.
is also kind of fun too. But it was I think more than anything, just like kind of reaching across and being like, oh yeah, like you've really done your work, and everyone just kind of like raising the bar for each other constantly.
Oh, I love that. Zoe, for you, I know specifically, I mean, some of these musical numbers, you are literally leaning on each other. You're dancing around each other. But talk a little bit about, I think especially the three of you ladies, how y'all came together in this ensemble.
I mean, we did. We were shooting. Excuse me. We were shooting in sound stages in Paris. So outside of the U.S., shooting hours or work hours aren't as extensively long as they are here in the United States. So, you work your 8 to 9 hours and then you go home and you have a glass of wine, and eat some bread, even if you're gluten free, and you get together and you kind of regroup and you talk about all of the things that we're doing. I kind of can familiarize with what Monica was saying because we were sort of siloed in a lot of our journeys, respectively, as our roles. But there were moments in which we shot in these sound stages where I can be rehearsing El Mal and Selena was rehearsing, Bienvenida, and maybe Carla was shooting that day. So in our lunch breaks, we were having lunch together and talking about how everything was for each other. How is it? What are you doing? Oh my God, this makeup, you look insane as manitas and blah, blah, blah. So, and I do remember that if I ever had like a little bit of downtime in learning my choreographies or my dialects, I would creep into the set and see what Carla was doing or see what Selena was doing, and having a clear understanding of just how proud I was of them and seeing them as who they are and who they were in that moment, and then what this was, and where we were. I was allowed to have those moments, and I know that Selena was doing the same because we compared sort of like journeys, and Carla was a part of everything from the beginning before even Selena and I jumped on, and Edgar and Adriana, and up until when it was delivered. Like, I almost feel like Carla is the silver lining. She's the connective tissue of all of this, as Carla Sofia Gascon, but also as Emilia, and as Emilia in the form of Manitas. So as a child that is one of three women growing up in a matriarchal sort of environment, always rooting naturally for women, but having a clear understanding that my journey in Hollywood wasn't always permissive of me being proud or being among a multitude of women, I was so happy going to set on Emilia Pérez. I was feeling like it was Christmas every day, and almost having like survivor's, guilt that I was experiencing something that I wished for so many more women. And what I'm appreciating a lot throughout this campaign journey is to know that Cynthia and Ariana are having that experience, that you, Monica, and Elle are having that experience. And that is sort of a reminder that female-driven narratives and storytelling and our stories and our journeys are so important. And I couldn't be prouder of my industry for recognizing that. Never before have we been here where so many female-driven themes in films are being sort of celebrated and voters are, supporting them. So I don't want to get too kumbaya, guys. I am having a little bit of champagne. That's what happens. I open up a lot. But it's to answer your question a very long way. It was exhilarating.
Oh, I love that. I mean, listen, I don't think we've seen it. We know this has been an emotional journey, the bringing of Wicked out for y'all. But I know it's refreshing to hear that that's everyone's journey. But for you, Ariana, I mean, I do feel like Wicked, it's the same thing. And because y'all filmed for so long, that ensemble got even tighter, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we truly built a family in every sense of the word. I mean, starting with John Chu, our incredible leader, our director, he is so brilliant. He just created such an incredibly safe and cozy space for us to just play, to try, to take risks, to be honest with each other, to find this Wicked, our Wicked. We had this impossible task of honoring something that has lived so many years before us. And we share it with so many brilliant Elphabas and Glindas who have played it on Broadway, 8 shows a week, on the tour, on the West End. And there are so many incredible women that we share this with, that we had to find the balance between honoring the Glindas and Elphabas that we have known and loved for 21 years, while also trying to forget that and breathe new truths into it and just kind of find as honest of a version we could possibly find for this. And we started in the dorm room, which was one of the smaller sets, and we just became so close with everyone, with every single person who was working on it, from the props department, from our sound family. Every single person had the chance to bond in such an intimate way before we started expanding and getting into the bigger sets that were just larger than life. The Munchkin Land with hundreds of dancers and essays who also felt like family at the end. We kind of got to build this trust and this intimacy that allowed for it to feel like a student film the entire time. No matter how large the scale became, it all just fell on the closeness that we were able to build and the trust we were able to find in each other. And yeah, it was really beautiful. I think that was the most special part. Yeah.
I think one of the things that's great about speaking to the three of you together is, although A Complete Unknown is not a musical, I'm calling it a musical. And I feel like
there's so much music in it.
It's so serious.
Like
I'm calling it a
songs
musical.
in it.
I feel James Mangold may jump out of here right now if I say that. He's like, this is a, biopic, but I think of it. Point being, all of you have moments of musical performance in this, which are so, I think, pivotal to the storylines. And I really want to examine a little bit more. Zoe, I want to talk with you about El Mal. Like, when I saw that at Cannes, first of all, I got a standing O the minute that it happened. Everybody just kind of lost it with that performance, and everything that you did. Talk about that journey. And I would really specifically like to talk about if there was a moment where you're like, whew, what did I say I was doing? Because that seems like I would have at least a gut check moment on that one, at least once.
Okay, let me answer that last one first. So I'm in Paris for like 5 months. I flew in straight from, finishing up the first season of Lioness, and I go from Morocco to Paris, and I'm doing this, and I flew in to LA for the Oscars for Avatar: Way of Water, and now I'm back. And then within a month of starting to shoot Emilia, then Guardians of the Galaxy comes to Paris, and I'm just doing publicity. And I remember I'm sitting down with James Gunn and Chris Pratt, 2 dudes, like one from Missouri, one from like Seattle. And they're like, so why are you here? What were you doing? And I love them to pieces. And I was like, well, I'm doing this film called Emilia Pérez and stuff. They're like, okay, what's it about? And we're like, in the middle of like our press junket, we're just having like a lunch break. I remember being at that crossroads of like, do I just divert this question and talk about something else? Or do I just lean in and just try to record their expressions as I am describing to them? You could hear crickets. Like they were kind of like, huh? I'm like, well, it's this movie in Spanish, it's an opera, it's about this, it's about that, it's about this. And they were like, okay. And I remember Chris looking at me and saying, I think it's great. I think it's going to be super great. But it kind of went like over our heads. But that was the first time that I physically like described the movie. And I remember telling myself, like, don't ever do this again. There's just no way that you can describe this in one sentence and leave a room without dropping a mic. I don't like dropping mics at all. So El Mal, in order for me to accomplish El Mal, I needed to really come in and methodically break it down in pieces because it was so daunting to me. Reconnecting was marvelous with a part of my life that I had sort of left behind 20 something years ago. But it was also very scary because I just didn't know how my body was going to respond and how my brain was going to understand the choreography given the time constraint that we had to sort of approach it, right? So I just took it one day at a time, and I'm a very pragmatic individual. And what I loved about this whole process is that Jacques and his team completely honored that. And I just didn't come into it like an artist. I'm just gonna like let it ingest and see what it comes of it. No. It was like I need 4 to 6 weeks to do this. So if I may, let's just push this set. If you have that luxury, let's just push this scene to farther out. That was possible. And I'm like, in between our shooting, whenever you bring me in and I'm not first one up, I would love to spend my time rehearsing this and practicing this choreography. And then I have my shoot day. Or on the weekends, I would love to just have one rest day. I'm going to give one to God, but I'm still going to honor this process. And I want to have at least 3 to 5 hours to learn this, to continue always like just ingesting this choreography. Mind you, I'm shooting with French people, so they're all like, okay, I don't know why you need so much time, but okay. But they just said yes to everything within reason, because what I wanted was to be there the day of the set, understanding that we were going to have nuances that were going to come in, last minute things that we needed to make space for. I needed to also know that I needed a foundation to lean in as a dancer, always a dancer. So you always need foundation. But I also needed all that space for Rita to be in that moment.
Wow.
Rita was an expat that had left something behind because she couldn't and she wasn't able to be herself in this space because she's a woman, because she's a Black woman, because she's of a lesser class. And she had left all that behind to find herself and reinvent herself. So she has that conflict already within itself. And now she has to come back to this place and revisit her former employer and this former society that she has so much disdain for. I needed to understand that process for Rita, and I needed to basically bring in all my tools so that the day of, it was all about what Rita was feeling. And a lot happened that was exhilarating then for me. So to answer your question, that was all of that.
I mean, no need for gut check when you're going about it like that. I mean, seriously. Monica, I'm going to switch it to talk a little bit about It Ain't Me, because I think that performance in particular is so interesting, what you and Timmy are having to do in that performance. There's other performances and a couple of them with Timmy before that, but that one in particular, just the like, she knows the moment that he's in. And at that point, they're almost like they're very much that ex that you avoid at the party, but you know if you get that extra shot of tequila, y'all might end up back in Vegas. Like it gives that, while they're also like world-class musicians who are giving like this incredible performance. And all of that like bouillabaisse is in that scene. So how did y'all craft that little soup? It was great to eat.
The funny thing about that particular scene is that that was probably, we spent the least time filming that over anything else that I filmed in the movie. Like I was filming a series at the same time. And so towards the end of production, I was running back and forth between New York and Toronto. And like, that was one where I was literally like throwing off the guitar, the beads, pulling out the like hair extensions and like getting on a plane and shooting in Toronto. So we only had so many takes for that particular scene, but the benefit of where it was placed in the schedule was that we had both performed solo and together several times by the time that moment came up. And like similarly to what Zoe's saying, like and like I ex-dancer like relate, like you know all of the preparation that it takes to get all of those components. I didn't sing, I didn't play guitar before this film, and so just like it's just a day by day practice and like breaking down all the things that you need to do and getting her sound. And so like by that point I had a proficiency as a musician and as Joan that was comfortable enough for me where I wasn't just like completely like blurred vision, anxiety, nausea by that time. And I could sort of just really embrace the scene work, like embrace the story. And in that moment, it is that like they've had all this history. And there's this whole piece that we don't include in the movie where like Bob and Joan were in London and they were at odds, and Joan writes about it a lot. And like I felt a lot of her pain in that, but then also I found it so extraordinary that she performed so much with Bob after. Like she's sort of maintained this relationship. She'll participate in documentaries about him now, and like they've had this really they went on tour together, Rolling Thunder tour in the 70s, and she wrote her song Diamonds and Rust after all that. Like it's such a heated relationship, but they're authentic with each other beyond all of their hurt. Just was such a cool, interesting sign to me that like I would get to play so many colors within that moment. And I will say like about that scene and certainly in regards to, you know, the ensemble of it all, I think a huge part of also what gives that particular scene its power is Elle and her response to everything that she's seeing. And also like, of course, Jim's ability to, you know exactly when to feature each and every actor, and the way he, you know, keeps it really close on us. It's a huge, you know, audience, but it's tight. And so you're feeling relationship there. But her response to us and what she gives us in terms of story is that like that sort of jealousy piece and that sort of that discomfort that I feel like allows the audience to see that these are two people who connect over art and have this thing that like nobody else can really penetrate, you know, like, and that it is just so special. As soon as they get together, they're flying. And so, yeah, I love that has been like a scene that people isolate as being a favorite, because it was just one of those, like, it's one of those magical things. You work so hard, you like kill yourself over the like, you know, slow, long monologue or song or whatever. And then like the favorite thing is the thing you did in a mad dash and then you left and like just magic happened or something. And it felt that way on the day. And I love watching it, and my heart breaks for Elle in that moment. And yeah, it was like quite a whirlwind.
Yeah, I encourage anyone to read all of the scripts, but it's particularly that scene in Complete Unknown where you know what Elle is acting through the stage notes. It is devastating. Miss Ariana Grande, ma'am, I'm going to bring a part that is going to feel weird to someone. I said I'm going to do all the musical performances, and I'm going to talk to you about Defying Gravity. But that is because in that song, and I know it is Cynthia's big song and it is the conclusion of the film, but what Glinda is doing is so interesting because I feel like audiences, like she in the song is when she says, "I'm not coming with you." And I feel for some audiences, they may understand Glinda in the sense of like, oh, I see why Glinda, in the sense that was something that Glinda would do. But I don't think they really understand what's going through her mind in that moment, because I would say there's equally a number of people that don't understand why she can't get on the broom. I'd be curious if you could talk a little bit about that and like what is going through her mind in that moment, because it's as much her moment as it is Elphaba's.
I'm so glad that you're asking this because I feel like there are so many people who think that she's making the decision out of kind of not being brave enough. Or, you know, I understand why there are people who want Glinda to have gone with her because what she's doing in that moment is so incredibly brave. And it's this response to this corrupt system that has othered people, it's enslaved animals, and it's been built on lies and deceit, and it's horrible. And what Elphaba is doing is incredibly brave. And I think people think that Glinda stays because she's not brave enough, or because she's comfortable being a part of the system that has ultimately benefited her, in her life. So she's not afraid to be a part of it. But I do think that part of the reasoning why she doesn't go is kind of the opposite of that idea. Um, I think Linda's magic is she has a certain understanding of society and how people work. And I think she also tries to transmute negatives into light. I think she sees clearly in that moment that the only way she and Elphaba would be able to make a change would be to stay and to be patient and give it time. And sometimes in this moment, maybe schmoozing a little bit with the bad guy and eventually overpowering him and, throwing him the fuck out. But I think that she knows that Elfie would never do that. And that's why it's such a beautiful moment. It's one of my favorite moments when I get to tie the cape around her and say goodbye, because it's the ultimate acceptance of like, I don't agree with this, but I know you and I love you and I don't approve of this choice, but I accept it. And that is, an act of unconditional love, I think. But I do think she knows deep down that the only way we'd actually be able to make a change, a positive change for the good of Oz, would be if we stayed together and made the change from the inside out. I think about this all the time. Like if I had gone with Elphaba, I first of all would have died immediately. I would have fallen off. First of all, I would have fallen off. I would have been off the broom dead instantly. There's no change we could have made. Also, we have real magic. There's nothing we could have done from in the fucking woods somewhere or wherever she goes. We would have just been like doing the crossword together, whatever, fine, but we wouldn't have been able to help people. We wouldn't have been able to make the same change if Elphaba had stayed with Galinda and leveraged her power over the wizard and Madame Morrible and said, you can't do this shit without me, use it for good, free these animals, free these monkeys. I'm serious. I think about this all the time. So I really, it's the only version that exists where we could be together in the end. And yeah, that is how I feel. But I would have been dead immediately. And I think that Glinda's true magic is her innate understanding of the world and how it can be manipulated. And I think that I'm excited for people to see how she uses that later on for good, really, truly. Yeah.
Oh, I know. And there we go. For good. I'm like, roll credits, kids. I'm sorry.
I really some type of way about it. Can you tell?
I know. I'm listening. Just because you can't go doesn't mean you can't fight, right? I think that's, is really important with Glinda. I want to talk to all of you about what I loved when you talked about these musical moments and your performances within them is I like to say it's the Simone Biles factor. Every actor who's nominated for anything is going to have to do a lot for that performance, but you all are working in musicals, you're working with dialects, sometimes impersonating people or impersonating characters that have been so familiar they feel like people, or concepts that are not ones that you're able to talk about over a croissant in Paris and have people like understand it off the get into what it is. But in the end, it's just Rita. It's just Glinda. It's just Joan. I'm curious, I'd like for you all to kind of talk. What were the quintessential parts of the character that you would come back to when you were, maybe getting overwhelmed with some of these other things that you had to bring to the performance? What were those quintessential things about the character that either centered you or that you wanted to make sure stayed true through all of the other parts of the production? And Monica, I'll start with you.
Wow. I mean, Joan is such a strong woman. She's an activist still. And she was a part of some of the most important movements in US history, world history to me. She has a strength about her, but she also talks endlessly about stage fright and fear. And I think she's just a very beautiful example of like fearlessness is not the absence of fear. It's just, I don't know, doing it anyway, doing the thing anyway. While the fear exists in your body. And I feel like I relate to that so much. I'm just terrified like every minute of every day. And particularly taking on an artist like Joan, whose voice is written about constantly, there are of course the technical pieces that I wanted to make sure I had so that there's recognizability there, because everyone talks about her steady vibrato, this angelic tone, that the key that she would sing in, and I didn't have any of those things. And so just like, or the guitar picking, like all of that, just getting those pieces of her from a technical perspective was important. But like in terms of her essence, it's funny. I mean, even my stepmom was talking about, my stepmom used to be in the San Francisco Opera, and she remembers in like the 90s when Joan visited, and she was like, the air changed in the hallway because this woman was standing there, and the power that she had just the power that she has emanates from her. I mean, it was a past tense story, but she still has that. And it's impossible really to play that, and to know it exists is like a kind of just wildly intimidating notion, and to try to fill those shoes. But like, I guess I just sort of felt like the best course of action was to study her endlessly, and everything that she writes so openly about herself, and like speaks so openly about herself and her nuances, like she doesn't just tell you the best parts of herself, she talks about her flaws. And so just trying to like experiment and inhabit all of these parts of her. She draws. I was like drawing, because I think people who draw see the world differently. Just trying to like grasp at all of these pieces of her, and then ultimately try and maintain some level of discernible strength through the portrayal of her, in spite of how not strong she maybe felt here and there, or throughout. She's kind of like, she just has so many shades to her. So it's like, and talks now, in a recent documentary, about having like multiple personalities. And so, like it's a lot to bottle into one, but also I think it helped that so many people had written and spoken to me about their response to her, and that being one of like this just sort of like energy and strength. So it was a lot of like, I guess it's not really like clear to me even, it was a lot of dabbling, but then ultimately at the end of the day, like if I was unsure, it was just like a deep breath and having confidence in a moment, in any given moment, in any performance that she gave.
For you, Ariana, I think it's almost a different question. We've seen the videos. We know you've been contemplating this character for a lot longer than it was in production, but who she became on screen is almost a different relationship. So when you found the Galinda that you were going to be bringing to this Wicked for Universal Pictures, what were those quintessential things that you wanted to make sure were true to who she was?
Well, I think the thing I wanted to make sure I was doing was just sort of getting to know every single thing about her on a human level, because of course Glinda presents herself as she is a comedic role, and it was just sort of making sure that beneath the surface there was a real insecure human heartbeat, so that she's not telling jokes, you know, she's not playing the jokes. They're not jokes to her. It's just her way of telling the truth. You know, the ridiculous things that she says have to just kind of come from a very real place. Otherwise, nothing will land. And I think it was just my favorite thing about it was reading in between the lines and kind of finding those things about her, and building what her home life is, and finding her own little traumas that are tucked away that she masks with her sort of obsession with external validation and being popular and being the liked and most liked person in the room. And, you know, I love her arc so much. She learns so much and she changes so much. And she is on this journey to find out what it truly means to be good. And it's a really beautiful thing. And that was one of my favorite things about getting to play her, was finding out who exists beneath the funny, because there's a really beautiful person there who tries really hard. And of course, some of my other favorite work to do was transforming my voice. It was really a huge journey to find out how to sing coloratura soprano opera. I've never sung opera before in my life, and I wanted to make sure that that sounded as like full and legitimate and healthy as possible. So I had to train my voice to do new tricks. I started working with a vocal coach, my vocal coach, Eric Vitro, 3 months before my
love Eric. I love
I
Eric.
worked with Eric too.
Oh my God. Everyone.
All three of you? All three of you? Wow. Eric Vitro, let's go,
Eric.
kid.
Yeah.
So
You should probably be a part of this panel.
Guys, we have to have like a dinner with Eric Vitro and just
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, look at the man's proof is in the pudding. I'm here, but
yeah.
Oscar SAG nominated actresses doing all right.
Oh
Sorry,
my God, that makes me so happy. Wait, we celebrate with it. No, that was just it. I mean, just having that be a part of this, like transforming my voice. I've been singing my whole life, but training the muscles to do new things was such a pivotal part of the journey. And you know, it was extraordinary, and getting to spend this time with her was the greatest gift of my life. And yeah.
And I'm going to come to you, Zoe, but I also will say, for shooting your shot at, I don't know, age 10, that has to be like on your Wikipedia page somewhere. Like, and she saw a Broadway play, said, I'm going to do that, and did. I'm just going to put that out there because nothing I wanted to do at 10 ever worked out. Zoe, go ahead, Zoe.
What was the question?
The question is, what was the quintessential part, what was the quintessential part of Rita that you wanted to keep true to the character while you're having to do all the languages, all the singing, all the dancing, all the choreography and everything? What kept her centered and grounded for you that you wanted to keep true to all the aspects of the performance?
To me, what was real about Rita that I wanted to honor is what is real in all women, is that we do have a desire to connect with each other. And there's this notion I feel like it's a psychosocial, cultural, you know, political thing that for hundreds of years, it's been instilled in us that we are stronger by being divided and being individualistic, when in reality, we are stronger by banding together and wanting to be more like each other. I think it's okay. And it doesn't mean that you stop being who you are. We're all very unique. Rita, there was a scene that in the courtroom that was deleted, where Rita comes in and she sits there because she was late, you know, writing, you know, the closing argument. And she sits there, and there are these beautiful girls sitting right behind her, these women. And even though she has to, you know, be focused on her boss and make sure that he knows exactly what she wrote for him, she can't help but steal a glance behind her just to look at these women that are like wearing these awesome like Saint Laurent suits and looking so, with their hair all coiffed, and it's the women that she wants to be, but she feels ashamed wanting to be like them. And then the whole journey, when Rita reinvents herself, she's always fascinated by Emilia. And then eventually she's fascinated by Jessie. And then she meets Epifania and she's fascinated by Epifania. And what Rita taught me is that you become more and more who you are by emanating the women around you that you look up most to. So that was a very beautiful journey for me, to reconnect with that, because I'm one of three sisters. And every day I wake up and I want to be more like my sisters, because they have better like horoscopic signs, like they're Taurus and I'm Leo and I'm just a Gemini, everybody heads in a Gemini, whatever. Like, and they're just like great daughters and great women and great career women and great mothers and blah, blah. And here I am playing a character that feels like all the women around her are better. And her journey is feeling shame for that, for wanting to be more like them. And then in the end, she feels absolutely platonically proud of all these women. And then she learns then to love herself because of it. So that journey about Rita, I never wanted to tamper with my tainted sort of ideas. I wanted Rita actually to tamper with me and help me reconnect to that.
Well, I could literally speak to you all for hours, but we do have to get out of here. But before we do, I ask this on every panel that I do for SAG because I'm incredibly happy whenever I get to speak to actors, especially when they're speaking to other actors. But everyone watching this wants to be where you ladies are. They want to be nominated for SAG Award. They want to be on a journey with a film and a performance as profound as what you've done. But I'd love for you to take us a peek back to where that journey began. And if you remember what you got your SAG card for, and what was the role or what was the moment in your career where you felt like you'd made it? And Zoe, since I've been watching you since Center Stage,
Me
I'll
too.
start with you, ma'am. And like the fact that I haven't just talked to you about that, like I deserve a bonus.
No, it wasn't because of Center Stage, or I did this episodic for Law and Order, and it wasn't that. I booked a Burger King commercial, you guys, and it was for, like a 2 for Tuesday or whatever it was. And I remember my parents called everybody, like all of my folks in Dominican Republic and the sons that were still living in Puerto Rico. And they were just like, "Oh, she booked a Burger King commercial. This is major. She made it. She made it." And I remember I shot the video and I ate, cold, wet like burgers and cold stale fries, and I loved every minute of it. And then in the end, they give me a voucher and they said, go take this voucher to SAG. And I was just like, what's SAG? That very day. And the person, I think it was like a PA that was giving me the voucher, explained what SAG was and what it stood for and why this was important. And I remember my heart just burst. Like, I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to be a part of a union that protects us, whoever we are, whatever we are. And then they told me you have to pay $1,400 to join. And I was like, fuck, I just got $2,500 for this commercial. I was like, and then I have to pay the rest, whatever portion into taxes. And I was like, are you serious? And they're like, girl, you're gonna thank me later. So that was my
here we are thanking later. No, that's lovely. Monica, I'm coming to you next. What did you get your SAG card for? And so did you think you made it at the Burger King commercial? I'm guessing, Zoe, the Burger King commercial was I made it.
No, but my mom did. So my sisters and my dad did. So I felt like, okay, I guess I made it,
Counts for a lot. Yeah.
Monica, for you, what was your SAG card? When did you feel like you made it?
I just have to quickly, before I answer the question, what Zoe was saying about like admiring other women, I feel like kind of emotional in this moment. And I told you this the other night, Zoe. I also was like a Center Stage fanatic. And Zoe, you were this beacon of like strength and talking back in a ballet setting, which is essentially like an authoritative construct, and like an often very through history like a very racist one. And like, though that was not the story, there was just an undercurrent of so much power in your performance in that. And I just have like followed your career through like, I just can't even believe that we're all in this. But I mean, it's wild. Like I'm the person, I feel like I'm also the person sitting and watching this panel and going like, man, I hope someday I get to like be Zoe. It's like, it's just like so exciting. And like the just like mutual admiration. I know we all have like, Ariana, what you did in this film is like so beyond. It's like such an honor to be here and get to be like talking with you guys. It's just so fucking crazy.
It's so crazy. And you two are
so crazy.
And Jacqueline, when you said we had to go, I was like, no, I want to hear them talk all day long.
No, we do have to go.
Like,
so I'm gonna make you answer these questions.
And I hope we can like I gotta be a like I want to talk to you guys and like unpack all of what you did. Like you're a beacon of it, just truly like a North Star of an actress that like made things possible. And you both are like, Ariana, you're younger than me, so it's a different like time, but it just I don't know, it's just like I don't know, I have chills and it's crazy, and like female admiration, it's just so fucking cool. Okay, SAG card. Okay. I started my acting career in San Francisco. I had stopped dancing pretty much. And like, I remember I booked this job and it was literally just my hands. My friends and I would joke like, no, I won't say, never mind. But we would just,
you should say.
Well, I was like, oh, I have this hand job to do. And they were like, you need to stop saying that. Like, stop calling it the hand job. But then it was funny because I was like, I got my SAG eligibility from the hand job. It was like for Square. It was in 2008. And it was for Square, when you used to like swipe on Square. It was this like brand new invention. All these like tech commercials and things were coming out of San Francisco. So that's like how I got my start. And it was this amazing set where like everything was done practically. They could have done it in post with green screen and all this stuff, but there was this duo, they're still making commercials. And I did several commercials with them in the city, and they gave me so much work and like really gave me my start. But like, this was my first big thing. And I remember I had been kind of like, do I want to be a performing artist? Like, can I handle this lifestyle? Do I want to do this? And I remember walking into that set and working on that set and just being like, I love this. Like, even just from here down, like, I want to be a part of it. And I got my eligibility from that. And it just was like, it was, I think I'm not sure if I felt like I had made it, but I was like, oh my God, it might be possible for me to like be a working actor. And I still kind of feel that way all the time. Like, I just can't believe it's so hard to even get a job. So like, I just remember how like lucky I felt and how cool that was to be sort of like a part of this, club, a union. Yeah.
All right, Ariana, for you, ma'am, when did you get your SAG? Were you even like aware? I don't know. Were you aware?
Yes, I was young. I got mine for Victorious. So I was on Nickelodeon after doing theater for my whole youth, my whole childhood. I was doing.
Wait a minute. So that means that you were an AFTRA member because you were doing theater, right? Or yes. Okay, good.
Yes, but then I got got my SAG card for Victoria. Yes. So that was so exciting. I just remember feeling like, oh my goodness, this is the step that we've all been like we all have dreamt about, and being a part of this community and being able to act. And I don't know, it was just such an exciting, huge moment. And I dyed my hair bright red, and then it was 6 years later, and it was like it was such an insane moment and chapter in my life. And I just remember how exciting that was. I felt like, oh my goodness, maybe this is going to be a part of my life. And yeah, it was really exciting. And yeah, speaking of community, just before we go, this was so cool and such an honor. And I look forward to seeing you ladies at like a million things in the next couple of months and hugging and hearing more and seeing you. And Zoe, hopefully your sisters, because they're so lovely and so sweet. And my mom has been asking about them. And I'm like, Mom, I don't know what to say.
We'll get them together. We'll get them together. We have to.
Yeah.
I feel a dinner coming.
We'll invite Monica. We'll invite Monica over.
Yes. Monica and Eric Vitro.
Yes.
So honored.
Seriously.
Exactly.
Shout out to Eric Vitro, bringing SAG-nominated actresses to perform. Love it. Thank you. Thank you, ladies, so much. I want to thank SAG-AFTRA and thank all of you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.